part of my journey that started a number of years ago was in a sense predated by being raised in a house that didn't necessarily have a huge knowledge of God, and that wasn't a bad thing. I'm not saying it was a bad thing, but I certainly started out from a level of not knowing anything about God. And what I found was, after I met Kelly, she was a believer and had a very strong faith, and one that was unquestionable and unshakable. And I struggled with that a bit because I couldn't understand why it was unshakable and why it was so solid. So as our relationship progressed and we were moving down the path closer to marriage, I began really to struggle with who was I and what was I supposed to be doing in the world. I couldn't resolve those questions in my head. I couldn't answer them myself, and that bugged me. And as we started getting closer to marriage, and we got married, we started talking about children and how will we raise them? What kind of platform will we give them to build upon? As Kelly was pregnant with Jesse, she was having some complications with the pregnancy. Looking back, it was major at the time, but God got her through that and got Jesse through that. But I found myself in the car one day on the way to work, talking out loud, not sure to who, but really, asking for help. I was, asking for comfort, a direction, and just that this little being, we didn't know if it was a boy or girl, this little child would come to us safely. And then I found myself second guessing. What are you doing? You're in the car on the way to work and you're talking to nothing. Then fast forward a few months, Jesse's born in the hospital, and a moment came over me, and obviously you feel lots of emotion and a series of feelings when you're watching your kids being born, and you go through that process. But I felt a very strong kind of slap on the back of my head, not physically, but emotionally and spiritually, of, now do you understand what I'm doing? Now do you understand who I am and what I can do? And that really brought me a lot closer to wanting to find out more about God and Jesus. After he was born, like I said, it really piqued my interest. I started reading Kelly's Bible, started in John, and just got intrigued, and I had to continually go back to different places within the Bible to not validate, but to get the full story and understand. I didn't want to believe in God and say, I believe in God because someone told me about him. I wanted to believe in God because I felt like I'd done, not the empirical research, but I actually made an effort to get to know him and find out how it stood up against historical documents, how it stood up against the test of time, and I couldn't refute any of it as I got through it. So not only reading scripture, but reading different theology books and doing research and using the people at Sequoia as a reference to help answer and frame the context for those questions. I think the reason why I went down this long path of 20 some odd years trying to get to know God or thirsting for him is because he wanted me to come to him in a way that, at least I think, in a way that would allow me to speak intelligently about him to other people, allow me to use my history as a non-believer to help relate to the folks that are sitting in the back of the church today. Maybe they're sitting in the front, I don't know. But it's a way for me to relate to them, and I know the anxiousness they feel. I know the solitude they may feel on certain issues. And everybody's got, something they're going through, and I think I can relate to the people on the outskirts of the community in a sense. And looking back now, if you were to tell me 10 years ago, Jim, you'll be attending a church to begin with, not only will you be attending, you'll be seeking after God in a way that you couldn't explain and you couldn't stop. I would call you crazy. And now, this is where God has led me and my family, and he's blessed us with a wonderful community and a place to continually seek him and know him. And I feel like I, now have a relationship with God through Jesus, and it's been a fantastic, journey through that, and that's where I'm at.